I started volunteering about 2018 here in Vallejo. I saw a leader that created opportunities for people to get involved, and I was like, hey, I want to be a part of that. And it was cleanups. And so I was excited to participate every month and to get more people to join the cleanup because it was important. I really felt that it was important.
Volunteering has really helped enrich my understanding of our Vallejo community, the different issues that all of our different neighborhoods go through, and ways that we can improve the city of Vallejo as a whole.
We've had a monthly cleanup event sponsored by the city, and the fact that they do send drivers to pick up the garbage and provide us with the necessary tools. There's been some good friendships that have been created, and people look forward to these almost like a social event. So it's not so much this is a drudgery, but it's something that people look forward to.
The City of Vallejo has launched a new public comment system for speakers who wish to participate during city council meetings and other public meetings held in the council chambers. The Q-List kiosk system will streamline and improve the ability for council to verify which items the public wish to speak on, and reduces issues with legibility, order of sign-up, and overall visibility of which topics the speaking party has registered for. To get started, after you have entered city council chambers, you'll be met with one of the new kiosk systems by the front entrance. The agenda item topics will be opened and available for the public to begin registration 15 minutes prior to the start of the meeting. To start, tap the screen and you will be prompted to enter your name or alias you wish to be identified as. Following the input of your name, you will be prompted to select the topic you
All right, so we're going to call to order the quarterly Deferred Compensation Committee meeting for City of Vallejo. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, Secretary Singh, if you could take roll call.
Good morning. We are going to have roll call. So I have Chair Member Brown,
Present.
Vice Chair Olson,
Here.
Committee Member Crutchfield, Committee Member Garcia,
Here.
Here.
Committee Member Peterson.
Present.
Thank you. There are no reports for the Executive Secretary for today.
Okay, thank you. Manny, do we have anyone waiting in community forum?
Thank you, Chair. Currently, do not have any members of the public with their hands raised to speak during this item. I do, in fact, have a timer reflected on the top left corner of your screen for interested parties to sign up for the community forum, either by raising their hand on Zoom or by signing up at the kiosk in the back. At the conclusion of that timer, if anyone does sign up, I'll be sure to let you know.
Thank you very much. So moving to item 6, the consent calendar and approval of agenda. Do we have, I'm going to call for a vote for approval of the last meeting's minutes, which would have been from quarter 1. And then I believe after that's when we'll swear in Mr. Crutchfield. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Can we make that motion with the moving the action calendar prior to the presentations on the order for the approval of the agenda today?
Yes, yeah, thank you for that, Natalie. So we discussed, and I'll make the motion that we move item 8, which is our action calendar, ahead of item 7, the presentations. So with that being said, Secretary Singh, would you like to call for the vote?
Sure. Committee vote, Chair Brown,
Yes.
Vice Chair Olson,
Yes.
Committee Member Garcia,
Yes.
Committee Member Peterson.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Great, thank you. And then do we need a formal motion to swear in Derek here? Okay. Okay, and yeah, same vote. All right.
So we have a motion to approve adding new members. Representative for Camp, adding Derek Crutchfield. Representatives for VPOA, adding Jeremy Callanan as the main and Daniel Callison as the alternate. And for Finance, adding Alan French as the alternate. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Seconded.
Thank you. So calling for vote, Chair Member Brown,
Yes.
Vice Chair Olson,
Yes.
Committee Member Garcia,
Yes.
Committee Member Peterson.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Thank you. Then we have action item B, approve Fund Watch continuation. Recommendation is by motion to approve the continuation for on-watch funds of Vanguard International Value Fund, MFS Value Fund, MFS Mid-Cap Growth Fund, Vanguard U.S. Growth Fund, and Vanguard International Value Fund. Can I get a motion to approve the continuation?
I'd just like to speak into the record, since we are doing it a little out of order than normal. This is a no change, right? These were items that were already on watch, so we're just continuing. Am I correct with that, Vincent? Okay. So with that being said, yes, I'll motion that we continue to keep the listed funds all on watch.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Committee vote, Chair Brown,
Yes.
Vice Chair Olson,
Yes.
Committee Member Crutchfield,
Yes.
Committee Member Garcia,
Yes.
and Committee Member Peterson.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Thank you. And then we have approved Fund Watch addition. Our recommendation is by motion to approve the admission of Mission Square Plus Fund and fee to watch status.
And so again, I'll just speak into the record. While we haven't had the presentation yet, we're receiving a recommendation that essentially comes from your group, correct, Vincent, that that we add this one fund. So far, I mean, I've trusted your advice. I believe we all have on the Fund Watch, and I'm sure we'll see in the presentation what your purpose is for this. So I'm okay with motioning to approve the addition of the Mission Square Plus Fund and Fee Watch.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. We'll do a committee vote for Chair Brown,
Yes.
Vice Chair Olson,
Yes.
Committee Member Crutchfield,
Yes.
Committee Member Garcia,
Yes.
Committee Member Peterson.
Yes.
Motion is approved. And then committee, we have the vote for the NAGDA conference attendance. The recommendation is to review and consider committee member attendance at the National Association of Government Defined Contribution Administrators Annual Conference for Educational Opportunities. We are to select member delegate and to vote for approval of expenditures for attendance. Dates are September 28th to October 1st in San Diego, California.
So I believe in past years we've sent a representative from our HR team. Is there a recommendation of who to send?
At this time, HR will not be able to have a representative go this year. So we are asking if anybody from the committee would like to attend this year.
Well, let's put it this way first. I looked at the dates last night, and I technically am free, and I'd have to run it by the boss at home, right? And I have not done that because I expected we were going to have someone from HR probably as that lead. Is there anyone on the dais who would like to attend and believes that they are available on those dates for a trip to this conference in San Diego?
I unfortunately am not available those dates. Chair Brown, if you are interested in going and want to confirm schedule, I would be open to having a motion to approve you, assuming that it doesn't conflict with your schedule.
I appreciate that. My follow-up question to that would be if it in fact does not work with my schedule, I would still like to get someone to go. And quite frankly, if someone else from this dais in a week from now says the stars align and it works great for them, I'd be happy to bow out. Is it possible to approve that we send someone without necessarily attaching a name yet? And then I don't want to violate any Brown Act with our communications outside of the committee, but are we able to communicate with like Secretary Singh to essentially to submit those of us who are available, if anyone is? And then the only concern would be, what if two individuals that say are able to go, then how do we make the decision?
So what are the dates?
The dates are September 28th to October 1st in San Diego.
Okay. I'll check my dates as well, and then see if I'm available.
So I'll put it out there this way, but thank you, Derek. Let's both do that. If it works for you, I will, bow to having you go. I say this in part, it's still part of fire season, it's late into fire season, so while it might work for me, things could change. So I will check my dates as well. If it works for you, Mr. Crutchfield, I'd be more than happy that you attend, and I'll stay home. And if it doesn't work for you, then I'll check a little harder with my dates. Does that work?
Yep, okay, so we'll just tentatively approve based on availability for both of you?
Yeah, so maybe worded as we'll approve for Mr. Crutchfield to be like the primary intended to go on this trip, with Chair Brown as the alternate, pending both of them checking their availability.
Can I get a motion to approve, please?
Since I boarded it, I'll go ahead and make that my motion, yes.
I second it.
Perfect. Then we'll do a quick vote. Chair Brown,
Yes.
Vice Chair Olson,
Yes.
Committee Member Crutchfield,
Yes.
Committee Member Garcia,
Yes.
and Committee Member Peterson.
Yes.
Motion is approved. If Committee Member Crutchfield and Chair Brown, if you could both just confirm with me directly, we'll be mindful of the Brown Act, and then that way I'll just send out the communication. Thank you. And then our last action item is to review and consider adding vintages. Consider adding 2065 and 2070 vintages to the target date series.
And again, just since we're doing this out of order from the presentations, just correct me if I'm wrong, Vincent, but that's simply an addition of target date index funds with those as the target, right? 2065, 2070 new additions. Yeah.
In a word, yes.
Okay. So.
Except for one thing, sorry, you already have the 2065, I apologize. It's adding the 2070.
Microphone, please. I'm sorry.
I apologize. You already have the 2065, it's the 2070 only.
Okay, so with that slight correction, we'll be adding the 2070 vintage to the target date series for our index funds. I'll motion that we approve.
I'll second.
Thank you. Chair Brown,
Yes.
Vice Chair Olson,
Yes.
Committee Member Crutchfield,
Yes.
Committee Member Garcia,
Yes.
and Committee Member Peterson.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Okay, and so that concludes the action items. We'll be able to move on to item number 7, which is presentations. Again, just since I have to leave at 9:50, I know that we discuss future agenda items as part of item 9. If you guys recall, back in January, the last meeting we had, we discussed the possibility of trying to figure out how we want to use some of the excess funds, the surplus funds in our administrative account. I did bring back a few ideas. I don't know if anyone else did. I think because they'd have to get voted on anyways, I don't want to spend time discussing the couple things that I have listed here, but I believe without any potential for Brown Act violation, I could just submit those as future agenda items to you, and they can go on next calendar anyways, right?
Yes, Chair Brown.
Okay.
You could just email it to me, and then I'll take a look, and then I can also distribute it through our list as well if we wanted to have it to the committee members before our next meeting.
Great, that's all I'll handle that. Thank you. Okay, so then moving to presentations.
So we have a presentation by Luther Hermano for Mission Square.
Hello. Much better. Good morning, committee. Hope everybody's summer's off to a good start. Going to go over a couple agenda items. Let's see the clicker. Perfect. So a couple things we'll go over, just some organizational updates from our end, from Mission Square, on what we're appropriating on your plan for your participants. I'm also going to go over a health report, Q2 accomplishments and results, so plan numbers, how we're doing, some of the changes that we've incorporated internally that I'll go over and how that reflects the numbers a little differently. Participant engagement, I'm going to go over some of the campaigns, financial wellness that we push out to your members and what they engage on. And then financial planning program, what we've done so far. We started workshops, financial workshops. That was pretty successful. Last quarter, it was a pretty good turnout. I'll go over that during the agenda and how well it was recognized by your members and participants. And we're going to continue that going forward. Legislative updates, some of the Secure 2.0 mandatory and optional provisions that are going to be releasing in the coming year. And then plan sponsor support and access and how we support your program. For some of the newer committee members that are joining on, welcome. Just want to introduce you to our team. I know I'm here by myself, but you do have a village of Mission Square members that support your program. I'm on the top. I'm your relationship manager. I provide plan oversight and strategy for your plan, ensuring that we're elevating the program for your members. Your boots on the ground is Ryan Bertrand. He's your retirement plan specialist that engages with your participants. He reports to Dario Gomez Garcia, who oversees employee outreach and education for your team. And then in addition, you have your financial planner, Richard Gill, certified financial planner that engages with your program. This is something that we incorporated as far as changes. It is inclusive with your plan. And then in addition to your team, we do also have a retention and outreach specialist that we added, Jeffrey Hawthorne. A lot of your times when your participants separate from service, they don't understand what their options are. Innately, they tend to speak with an advisor on the outside. They think that, hey, should I roll my funds into an IRA? That's not their only option. So our retention specialist does provide communication and outreach to ensure that they're making an informed decision. All right. Mission Square retirement updates. So some of the things that we're doing internally, we are changing the look and feel of the website. So participants that log into the website, what they're currently looking at now, we're actually revamping it. So we're refreshing it to bring it to modern feel. We're also, placement-wise within the website, we're ensuring that we're making it simple and easy to access. Resources are easier to access for your participants. So we've been sending out surveys to plan sponsors to see what they're wanting and what their participants are wanting to see from this resource site. We're also adding additions to our financial wellness center, including calculators and financial wellness tools that are appropriate for your participants. That's coming in the fourth quarter of this year. In addition, we're also updating the telephony enhancements. So through our call center, something that is a deep concern and something we take very seriously is security for your members. So participants that are calling through the call center, we are incorporating additional enhanced security through pin drop. We're leveraging voice biometrics. So when participants call in, a lot of times bad actors, we're wanting to get ahead of them in ensuring security is appropriated for your members. One of the things that bad actors cannot appropriate is breathing. Participants, when they call in, they can't appropriate patterns of breathing. So we're incorporating pin drop, which is a voice biometric tool in analytics. When participants call in, just from regular voice talking, it's going to tell whether or not there's a bad actor trying to access a participant's account. We're doing this in phases. We started in May, June, July. We've been testing with pin drop, including security. August, we have voice biometrics. June, we were focusing on predictive analytics. July, improved knowledge of management, so automated support and information access, which was phase 2. Also in June, we focused on increased data capturing through call tagging and escalation monitoring. So this is also going to appropriate into the fourth quarter of this year. Plan review. All right. So education outreach, how we're doing as an organization and outreach. The top half RPS is your retirement plan specialist. Consultation, CFP is your certified financial planner. Two different roles and how they engage your participants in different aspects of their lives. So in the second quarter, there were 42 RPS consultations provided. You're going to notice there was a bit of a dip from last year's second quarter numbers at 62. We also changed internally the way we track consultations for your participants. Prior, any participants that were engaging a retirement plan specialist, whether it was phone call, email, service, it was tracked as a consultation. We're wanting to ensure that we're bringing value to your members, so the way that we're tracking internally now is ensuring that it's a full review of your participant's account. So you're going to notice the dip in numbers. It's not for lack of trying. It's ensuring that we're providing value to your members, that there's a full review, that there's full-on notes for the participant, and ensuring that we're engaging your participants appropriately. 5 CFP consultations provided in the second quarter as opposed to last year. There were 3. That's an area that we do expect to beef up going forward as we're pushing out these in-person workshops. There was also 1 seminar on site here at the City of Vallejo In 24, in the second quarter, there was also one seminar provided as well. Turnout was much higher in the second quarter. Participant enrollments, 27 enrollments, as opposed to second quarter in 24, there were 38 enrollments. So there was a bit of a dip there. In-plan contributions, 928,000 went into the plan as opposed to 24 second quarter numbers at 925. So a slight increase, but still about par. In total roll-ins, 61,000. That appropriates 4 total roll-ins. Roll-ins are when participants are consolidating their accounts, rolling in other plans on the outside, whether it's group plans, IRAs, and they're consolidating their assets. In 24, there were 3 roll-ins appropriated to 23,594. Average participant count balance is 109,000 as opposed to second quarter of last year at 61,000, so that increased. Net cash flow, positive, 432,000, that's great. Cash flow is money going into the plan, all money's going into the plan versus money going out. So that is definitely a number that, that increased from year over year. Account logins, 2,341 account logins, as opposed to second quarter 24 numbers at 3,622. I always mention that's not a bad thing. This is not an account where your participants want to access every day like a bank account. It's a long-term investment. Moreover, when they're accessing their account, they're looking at their balance, rate of return, and ensuring their plan's on the right track to meeting their income for retirement. Financial wellness logins, there were a total of 6 wellness logins as opposed to 38 and 24. So that's an area that took a bit of a dip. And then total rollouts. This was a huge decrease. 2 rollouts appropriating 36,000 as opposed to second quarter in 24. 6 rollouts totaling 691,000. So that was a huge decrease in rollouts. All right. Any questions on the plan reviewed numbers from the committee? All right. As far as plan balances, we're sitting at the end of the second quarter, 65.7 million. Year over year, that was a 15.3% increase. At the end of June 30th of 24, we were sitting at 57 million. So plan growing, contributions increasing, participants engaging with the program. Also asset allocation, didn't see anything too far off here. This just gives you a snapshot or picture of age group demographics, how your plan is comprised of participants. It looks like a high percentage, 29.3% for those ages 40 to 49. In the green area, 30 to 39, about 29.1%, and then about 18.4% in 50 to 59. Also, on the right-hand side, based on plan, it shows you where participants are investing within investment asset classes. Pretty diversified. Contributions and disbursements. On the top graph shows you contributions and roll-ins. Essentially, you're looking at increasing year over year from second quarter 23, 24, 25. That's really what you want to see health-wise. Participant disbursements over the years from 22 to 25, decreasing in participant disbursements. That's also what you want to see, huge decreases. And then cash flow, something of an improvement from Q2 of 24. There was negative cash flow in the second quarter of 24 as opposed to 25. We netted a positive net cash flow at 432,000, rounding up 33. All right. And then going into service logins, this just gives you a graph of how often your participants are accessing their account. It shows how many registered accounts participants have created or credentialed online. It also shows you how often they're logging into their accounts based on plan. In total, overall, participants registered in all accounts, averaging about 45.5%. In the 457 plan, there's about 60.6% that have registered accounts. And then participant status based on age just gives you a breakdown of those that are actively contributing and those that have separated from service. The way to gauge this graph is the light blue area on the top shows you those that have separated from service. There's about a little over half of the participants that have separated from service still keep their assets in the plan, which is essentially what you want to see. The reason why I'm showing you this graph is as we're pushing out in-person workshops, we also want to engage the retirees as well too. So some way that we'd be able to communicate to the retirees to help bring in financial workshops and financial planning to their benefit too as well.
So when they separate and they leave their money in there, and they leave their funds in there, they're leaving them in there without accessing any, or are they receiving disbursements?
They're able to access their accounts. Once they separated from service, Committee Member Crutchfield, they have full access to taking disbursements. They also have access to doing what's called specified payment options. They could have a reoccurring distribution out of their account on a monthly, quarterly, and have that continue indefinitely until otherwise. They can also withhold their taxes too as well, so they don't have to worry about the tax burden at the end of the year. A lot of times when participants are looking at their plans as opposed to IRAs or other retirement plans, the benefit of keeping it in their plan is the reduced fees. They have an investment lineup that's intentionally made by your consultant. Also, the record-keeping fees are significantly reduced. When they're making an apples-to-apples comparison, participants tend to choose to leave their assets in the plan.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, they have full access to their accounts. So participants that make that informed decision, we added a retention outreach specialist to ensure that that's relayed to your participants, so that way they're making an informed decision. Yeah. Any other questions on? Awesome. Thank you, Committee Member Crutchfield. Beneficiary designations. This is also an area, a new slide that some of the committee may have not seen. This shows you in the 457 plan how many participants have beneficiaries on file. So there's about 67 participants that we've tracked that have beneficiaries on file. The other 33% is another area we want to target to ensure participants are appropriating a beneficiary. Very important. I'm not sure if any of the committee members have gone through probate before, or a loss of a family member or friend where a beneficiary was not listed. It is a process. When a beneficiary is designated on a plan, it avoids probate, and participants are able to access claims straight through the account. So another area we want to communicate out to participants to ensure they're electing a beneficiary. Emails on file, this is a great number, 91%. So ensuring your participants are getting communications from Mission Square when we do appropriate campaigns, communications, resources that we push out to your members. Majority of those that are in the plan are getting those communications. All right, participant engagement. Q2, we focused on making the most out of your savings. These are goal-based programs that we push out to your participants throughout the year. Certain areas that we focus on, we really want to incorporate our Financial Wellness Center and tools, Am I on Track calculators that we incorporate through the site, our financial planning, RPS workshops. A lot of these that participants engage on, we send out flyers, email communications, microsite banners to ensure that they're engaging with the program. You as committee members also have access to our plan sponsor toolkit. You don't need login access for this. You can actually see some of the materials that we push out to your members and what they're engaging. It's a website I can send to the committee. I do have a slide. This is the site and what that looks like. You can click on the campaigns and it'll show you exactly some of the communications that get pushed out. You can also click into the microsite to see what they're engaging to as well. Also, communications in Spanish. We also now have reps for participants that would like communications in Spanish, flyers, or consultations in Spanish. We do have participant call center capabilities for participants who are able to engage with a Spanish speaker. And then financial wellness puzzle, we really bring it all together and provide a holistic view from financial planning to plan design to participant engagement to your rep, and ensuring that your participants are engaging with the program and benefiting from the resources that we're providing. The Financial Wellness Center, for those that haven't engaged it before, uses smart technology. It builds around a lot of the things that your participants are looking to incorporate within their financial plan. It has a search bar, Am I on Track toolkit. Participants that type in things like a college savings, 529 plan, or other type of securities or investments, it builds around that and continues to provide resources behind that. So very great toolkit, something that we want to continue to push out to your members to access. Financial planning program, for those of you that haven't engaged with a financial planner before, financial planning is a process. This is something of a change that we incorporated with your program. It's accessible to all your participants. For those that want to speak with a financial planner, they can schedule a consultation straight through Rich's link. You can engage with a financial planner. That not only includes yourself, but also your spouse too as well if married. Financial planning not only incorporates your assets that you have with Mission Score, but your entire estate. If you want to discuss estate planning, tax planning, your pension, Social Security, your college savings for your kids, everything that's tailored into a financial plan, they're able to build a financial goal plan for you. And that goal plan gets tracked into the actual website where you can tinker around with the Money Guide Pro portal that you have access with your financial plan if life changes were to happen. These are some of the flyers and communications we push out to your members. We make it easily accessible, so now you have QR codes. Participants could just scan a QR code and access a consultation straight with a financial planner. Now, for whatever reason, if your participants didn't want to work with Rich is a great guy. He's been a certified financial planner for a very long time. If in the case they wanted to access a different financial planner, we have an entire team where participants can access the entire financial planning team if they want to work with another financial planner. All right. The webinar programs is also out, so in addition to in-person workshops, we also have webinars that we push out on a weekly. Your participants get this information emailed to them. For those that do want to access different financial literacy topics, we do push out financial wellness webinars on a weekly basis. All right. And then also the Retirement Education Center. For those that aren't able to access a webinar or in-person workshop, a lot of the presentations that our CFPs do provide are already accessible to your participants. They can go to our Retirement Education Center and they can click on a topic that resonates well with them, and they can go through a presentation that's already been pre-recorded.
Hey, Luther, sorry, real quick. This is another one. I didn't want to interrupt Luther before, but as a participant, you have comprehensive financial planning available to you, in large part, no charge. That goes away when participants roll their money out. So this is yet another benefit of keeping the assets in the plan after somebody separates from city service.
Absolutely. Thanks, Vincent. Yeah, so that's something that definitely, as retirees transition into retirement and pre-retirement, building a financial plan to ensure that that transition into a retirement is smooth and that the assets they've built during the course of their careers will sustain the income that they're going to need. Huge benefit, as Vincent had attested to. A lot of retirement providers, they normally charge for the service. This is something of an inclusive service for your members, so definitely something you want to take advantage, and we definitely want to promote. Yeah, thanks, Vincent. Money Guide Pro portal just gives you a snapshot view of the play zone. I used to utilize this when I used to consult. Money Guide Pro portal, definitely an intuitive area where participants are able to build a financial goal plan. It runs through hundreds of different scenarios. You're able to incorporate participants' asset allocation into the Money Guide Pro portal, and it provides a confidence zone to ensure, based on hundreds of different scenarios, it's going to provide you a percentage of ensuring that that income is going to sustain the required income your participants will need to and through retirement. All right. Legislative updates. Secure 2.0 provisions. These are some. There's a lot of provisions in Secure 2.0. Definitely don't want to bore the committee, but these are some of the provisions that are optional and mandatory that are either now or up and coming in the next year. So the top is something that we've discussed before with the committee. The higher catch-up limit. This is the super catch-up. This is an optional provision for 2025 for plan sponsors. So participants that are within the ages of 60 to 63, if they want to defer more than what the age-based catch-up is, over age 50, which is 7,500, if adding this onto your plan as an optional provision in 25, it allows your participant base to increase their catch-up contribution by 125% of whatever the annual catch-up limit is for the given year. Going into 2026, if the city doesn't wants to keep this optional for 25, going into 2026, it becomes what's called a negative election, whereas you as a plan sponsor would need to sign off if you don't want this appropriated on your plan. So something that we do want to ensure that we're engaging administratively with finance and with HR to ensure that there's measures in place to incorporate this as a transition into 2026. Also, the Roth catch-up wage mandate. The Roth mandate is something that plan sponsors are going to want to, going into 2026, be prepared for. I'm unsure whether the city pays into FICA, into Social Security wages for your members. If not, this would not apply. We do, okay. Yeah, so if we do pay into FICA, which Social Security tax, this is the Roth catch-up wage threshold is something that we want to ensure is appropriate on the plan. I believe we already do have Roth, if I'm not mistaken, on the plan. So this is something that we want to ensure administratively participants that are over the age 50 threshold, if they make over 145,000 in income, those catch-up contributions that they would be deferring going into 2026 have to be deferred via Roth, not pre-tax. So that's something that you'd want to ensure that administratively you have systems in place through your payroll provider to ensure that those age-based catch-up contributions are deferred Roth as opposed to pre-tax. So that's going to be mandatory going into 2026. Also, exclusions for certain disability-related first responder payments. This is end of 26, allows first responders to exclude annuity or pension payments from their gross income as they transition into retirement. So that's one that's going to be hitting at the end of 26. And then repayment of QBADs, which is qualified birth and adoption distributions. Those that took advantage of that from Secure 1.0 would have to repay payments over a period of 3 years, beginning on the day after they initiated a distribution. This is a simple form that we've appropriated for plan sponsors. So for those, for any provisions, whether optional, that want to be added onto the plan, single-page standalone form, you as a plan sponsor can complete this. I can walk you through this. From here, once this is submitted, our plan design team and operations would work with you to ensure that we have an OPEF, which is an optional provision election form, and a full plan document completed for you that would be sign-off ready to include plan provisions. Also, we have resources that support your employee base, so any provisions that are added onto the plan, we do have resources to support your program to send that out to members, participants. All right. And then client resources, these are a couple things that for the newer committee members, Employee Resource Center.
Luther, sorry to interrupt, but this is where I'll have to leave, so I just want to thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, Chair Brown.
Thank you, committee.
Thank you so much. All right. And just wrapping up, Employee Resource Center is just an area, whether administratively for those that are administering the program or for board members that like to take a look to see FAQs for their participant base, processes, plan management, reporting, virtually all resource guides appropriated into a microsite that we've built out for plan sponsors. You can go straight to the website, doesn't require login access, and you can take a look to see any materials that you'd like to pull that would resonate well for your members. You'd be able to pull through the resource site. Employer Bulletin, also a great area that you can subscribe to, provides a tremendous amount of information from market perspectives, legal perspectives. We do advocate on the Hill for a lot of legislation that does get passed into law. Education, plan management, things that we appropriate, what's new and coming within the plan year, something that you can subscribe to through our Employer Bulletin. Plan Health Dashboard, other than me providing a Plan Health report, gives you access through the sponsor site to take a look at demographics of your plan, to see how your plan is doing in comparison to other plans within Mission Square's universe. Taking a look to see age group demographics where your participants may be doing better in other areas. And then supporting you every step of the way. We provide, in addition to the resource site, Plan Health Dashboard, tremendous amount of resources to support your program, ensuring that we're moving the needle in the right direction. Thank you for time from the committee. Any questions from the presentation? Thank you so much.
Thank you. And now we have a presentation by Vincent for highest group.
Actually, assuming pulling up my reports in the works, I'll go ahead and talk over the silencer waiting. So, oh, perfect. Thank you very much. Is that the clicker for? Oh, yeah. Thank you. So a little bit of background, because this look and feel is probably new to some of you. Essentially, my name is Vincent Galindo. A company I worked for over 11 years is a company called Highest Group. Highest Group is a retirement plan consulting firm similar to Mission Square. We're an outside business partner. The one key distinction is that we adopt fiduciary status. And what that means is we don't take a penny from the record keepers like Mission Square or the management companies like MFS. We are truly independent. But the other important facet of our role as a fiduciary is that every recommendation that we make has to benefit the participants, not necessarily the city. Most of the time, those interests are in alignment, but not 100%. But the group that we advocate for are the participants. And as I said, as fiduciaries, we take their interests as paramount. I brought up the term Highest Group. Over 11 years ago, I joined that firm, and then probably 4 years ago, Morgan Stanley, the big multinational investment bank, bought our firm and pledged that they would keep us separate, and they have. But about a year ago, they bought another Highest Group called Cook Street, based in Denver, Colorado, and in April of this year, merged Highest Group and Cook Street, and now our new name is Fiduciary Consulting Group. And so a lot of our committee members still resonate with Highest Group. I still call us Highest Group, but if you call us FCG, Fiduciary Consulting Group, or Highest Group, it's all one and the same. A little bit of background on me. I grew up in Woodland, went to school in Berkeley, and the first day of my job after graduation was in San Francisco. I met a woman from Oregon. And so about 25 years ago, we moved to Portland, and even though my desk is in Portland, most of my clients are down here, somewhat intentionally, in the Sacramento and San Francisco area. And so city of Elk Grove, city of Santa Clara, San Jose, Vallejo, Solano County, I count those as valued clients. And so as we go through this, I'm going to skip around through, not because the information is unimportant, but it's nice following Luther. A lot of this is repetitive and covered very, very well by Mission Square and Luther. And so as I go through this, please stop me, but I'm not going to touch upon every data point and certainly not every page. True to my role as the retirement plan consultant, we do talk less about the participants, more about the funds and the markets. I do want to touch briefly upon this economy. We are settling into this nice economy, but it's not great. Some would call it a Goldilocks economy, not too hot, not too cold, rather just right. In fact, if we take a look at some of the economic indicators at the bottom of this chart, we will see the first number that's in rather large font or print is the GDP number. GDP stands for gross domestic product, and most people consider this a good barometer of our economic activity. The downside is you'll see that negative or that hyphen before the number. For the first time in 3 years, we saw the economy contract in the first quarter of this year. And so we have seen a slowdown in the economy, given a lot of the policies out of the new administration. The good news is this was the first quarter. We have seen a tremendous rebound, if not in the economy, then in the markets in the second quarter, and we'll talk about those stellar numbers here in a second. When we talk about inflation, we also talk about interest rates, because the Federal Reserve has a 2% target on inflation. Right now it's 2.7%, but even though it's a little bit higher than the Federal Reserve's 2% target, we do anticipate 2 interest rate cuts when the FOMC, or the Federal Open Market Committee, meets throughout this month, September, October, and December. So 2 interest rate cuts. When they do meet on July 30th, there's almost a 100% chance that rates will stay where they are at 4.25%. We don't anticipate the first cut until September. And then in October, another staying put, and then in December, another decrease. And so again, a 50 basis point reduction in interest rates as we round out the year. And then I talked about this somewhat good economy, at least as measured by the job numbers. A measure of full employment is an unemployment rate of 5%. We haven't seen a number that high in a number of years. It settled down to 3.5%, but it is ticking up. 4.1% nationally. Here in the county, it's about 4.7%. So relatively healthy, at least in terms of the job numbers. So that's the good news. I want to move into the great news. The markets have been absolutely on fire. So if I take a look at the bottom half of this page, the chart talks about many different indexes over different time periods. I want to focus on the second one, the U.S. fixed income as measured by the Barclays U.S. Ag or Aggregate Bond Index. Historically, the Ag has averaged about 3.5% a year over a full market cycle. Take a look at the last year, over 6%. That year to date of 4% is now a little bit lower at 3.5%, but still good annualized numbers in the first 6 months of this year. So good bond market returns. And then moving down into the fourth line, the U.S. large cap equity. This is measured by the S&P 500. These are 500 large U.S. companies, mostly household names like Amazon, Microsoft, Nike, UPS, et cetera. You can see for the quarter up over 10%, bringing the 12-month number to over 15%. So very impressive numbers in the U.S. stock market, but the good news gets better. The international markets, there are about 45 countries outside the U.S. with an investable stock market. So think Canada, Mexico, Japan, Germany, China, Russia. The international stock market is represented by the All-Country World Index minus United States. For the quarter, this is the second 3-month period in 2025, up over 12%, bringing the one-year number to almost 18%. So very good news, driven mostly by the weakening dollar. So I'll pause there, see if anybody has questions on the economy, the markets. No? Okay. Let me move into the plans. Here is the high-level overview. We call this the plan overview, but about a year ago, the committee said, Vincent and Luther, you have a lot of data points in your reports. Is there any way you can condense the data points? And so every quarter we produce this executive summary, if you will. And so I don't know if you had a chance to read it, we produce it. If you want anything laid out differently, it just sets the stage for the things that we're going to talk about. And it ticks into this page here that creates almost a summary of this summary. So on page 12, as I move from the middle left down to the bottom, we talked most notably about the funds. And we talked already about the watch funds, and I just wanted to take a step back and explain what the watch process is. As the consultant, we have some expectations around the behavior or characteristics of the investment options in your plans. And so with our regular contact with the fund managers, we're looking at two different things. We're looking at performance, not just past performance, but almost this art crystal ball where we're trying to predict future performance. We're also looking at qualitative metrics. And in the bottom third of this page, you'll notice the plus fund is a watch candidate. We've already placed that fund on watch, but I wanted to give you context on really what the watch status is. So the investment policy statement that you have and that we use to guide the analysis of the investment options talks about the quantitative or performance, but also talks about qualitative issues such as assets, increase or decrease, fees, more increase than decrease, and then any management change. And you'll notice that the plus fund, it's noted there twice because it's in two different plans in two different share classes, but the theme is identical to both of those. Over 10 years ago, Karen Chung Wolf has been managing the plus fund. And this is that conservative capital preservation option with a large amount of assets. You can see over $10 million of the city's plans are in this particular option. She has done an amazing job. In fact, she was so good that when the chief investment officer of Mission Square resigned, the board and Mission Square management tapped Karen Chung-Wolf to be interim chief investment officer. That gave us pause because even though we thought she was a great manager, we thought that her responsibilities were going to be stretched. So we placed this fund on watch. Fast forward to about 6 months ago, Mission Square hired a permanent chief investment officer. Karen moved back to the portfolio management of the Plus Fund. We thought all was good. We removed the fund from watch status until the new chief investment officer let her go. That's the word that we have. The official word is Karen Chung-Wolf is no longer with Mission Square. We don't think it was her own volition. We've been in constant contact with the remaining team, and we're confident that her lieutenant is now in charge, Oliver Meng, is going to do a great job, but there is significant disruption. And even though Oliver Meng has our full confidence, he's not Karen Chung-Wolf. And so our recommendation is to place that fund on watch. And again, you've already voted on that, but I wanted to give you context and to note that we're in constant contact with Oliver and his team to make sure this fund is still appropriate. And if not, we will come to you to make some choices. But right now, all is good despite the watch status. Questions on the Plus Fund, Karen Chung-Wolf, Oliver Meng? No. We don't. So again, it's relatively new. Mission Square, I get it. It's frustrating as a consultant or a fiduciary of the plans. I want all the information, but from an HR standpoint, I understand why they're so relatively tight-lipped. Yes. So now moving down the list, the Vanguard U.S. Growth and the Vanguard International Value, those two funds, the recommendation was to retain the watch status, but at the next meeting, I anticipate that we will bring search documents for those two particular fund asset categories. Vanguard U.S. Growth has relatively good performance, but it's going to roll off a very, very stellar year. We think there are better options, and we just want to have a conversation with the committee to see if we can upgrade that particular fund with a replacement candidate. It is a similar story with Vanguard International Value. The performance is not as good as Vanguard U.S. Growth, and the strategy of Vanguard International Value is moving away from its mandate. And so given the performance numbers as well as the style drift, if you will, we would like to bring a replacement candidate for Vanguard International Value to the next meeting. So questions, comments on this particular page? Okay, moving through the report again, I'm going to skip a few pages because Luther already covered a lot of the data points. This is now the 457 plan. Very, very impressive numbers. What we do is in the blue columns on the bottom half, we strip out the investment performance of the funds in the 457. You can see for the quarter, the second 3-month period, investments were up almost 9% for that quarter, bringing the 1-year number to over 12.5%. So relatively positive gains out of both the stock and bond markets. Here are the investment options in the 457 plan. We group them by asset class and rank them generally in risk order, but if you ever want to see the full investment menu, the beginning balance, and now I'm rounding out the center to the right-hand columns, you can see the cash flow, money going in, money leaving, and gain loss, ending balance, and then the number of participants. Back to my point about towards the bottom, that Vanguard target retirement 2065, the Vanguard offering of 2070 is missing, and this is what the vote of the committee was earlier, is that we will work with Mission Square to add the 2070 to round out the entire target date series that Vanguard offers to all their investors, that for somehow the city's plans don't offer that. Moving into the planned growth over time, this is an impressive chart. We track it since we were hired in 2022. You can see way back then, the plan was 45 million, thanks to cash flow as well as strong market gains. At the end of the quarter, over 61 million. So impressive growth rate of the plan over the last few years. This is now the 401A plan. You'll see very similar performance numbers. In the 401A, the weighted basis return of the investments just under 9% for the quarter, bringing 13.5% return for the 1 year period. Again, very, very impressive. And then this is the menu. Same menu as the 457, obviously different asset size, just because of the plan size is much smaller than the 457 plan. And then here is the plan growth of the 401A program. Just over $425,000 at the end of 2022, eclipsing about $650,000 at the end of the quarter. And then this is the RHS, or Retirement Health Savings Plan. Similar bar charts of the previous two plans for the quarter, almost 9% gain, and then 14% over the year. And then here is that plan growth over time. Doubled in the last few years. You can see 1.7 million at the end of 2022, just over $4 million at the end of the quarter. I do want to touch upon the fee portion of this, because a recent U.S. Supreme Court said, as fiduciaries, meaning fiduciary consulting group as well as the committee, fees are an important fiduciary component of our review. And so our job as the consultant is to make sure fees are reasonable, if not competitive, to make sure participants are getting the best value for the amount of dollars that they spend on the administration. And the administration comes in different forms. You'll see this page is a 457, but each column is broken up into 3 different colors. The gray component, or the top half, is the investment cost. This is what participants pay directly to the fund managers. And you can see in 2022, it was over 20 basis points. Now it's just over 17. Not a huge reduction, but costs have come down. The blue portion is the administrative tack-on fee that the committee can use for plan-related expenses, and we'll talk more about this. But this is your money for participants. And then the last smaller portion, and my screen is orange, this is the Mission Square record-keeping fee of 2.5 basis points. And so you can see when you add the 3 colors, at the end of the second quarter, it was just under 30 basis points, or 29.6, and I'm in the bottom right chart. Speaking of fund expenses, most people would argue that these are hidden in plain sight. They're fully disclosed, but I would argue most participants nationally as well as here in the city don't necessarily understand what they're paying in the investment costs, and this is why it's an important component of our review. Fees add up, but these are a little bit sneakier than any other costs that we have in our everyday life. The fund manager simply deducts the fee column from second to right, the fee before reporting the performance net of that fee. So participants rarely see this as a line item on their statement unless the expense ratio is disclosed. Basically, they get the return in their account after these fees. But you'll notice that every fund has an explicit fee. Again, this is the second to right-hand column. The total is 17.1 basis points on a $61 million plan. It's over $100,000 a year. Over a career, these fees add up. And again, that's a responsibility for us collectively as fiduciaries. But this is the 457 plan. And then the 2.5 basis points that Mission Square keeps is about $15,000 a year, $4,000 a quarter, or $27 per participant. And then the administrative tack-on fee, this is what you can use for plan-related expenses, of 10 basis points is about $61,000 a year, $15,000 a quarter, or $110 per participant. And then it's a similar chart with the 401A plan, and then a very different chart with the RHS, only because the account balance is usually smaller and the administration cost of these types of plans are incrementally high, and so the fee structure is very, very different. But our job is to monitor the fees and make sure that they're reasonable. But I want to conclude on this side, because this is what Chair Brown was talking about. You're paying the investment costs as participants, you're paying the record-keeping costs. There is this excess revenue of that 10 basis point that adds up over time, And you do have a fee policy that guides the spending and the collection of this money. But for good or ill, the Internal Revenue Service says we as fiduciaries have one guiding principle, and it's relatively simple. As long as it reasonably benefits participants, you can use that money. So training, consultant, food for an enrollment party, fiduciary insurance, all of these have been deemed legitimate plan-related expenses. But here's the accounting of it so you as a committee can see at the beginning balance, the contributions, growth, distributions, and the ending balance, quarter in, quarter out. At the end of the second quarter of 2025, this administrative allowance account has $86,789. And again, you can use that to pay for plan-related expenses, but our job is to convey this to you so you can at least make some informed decisions on what you spend that money on, and that you have the prudence to say, this is reasonable or not.
So that money, does it roll over? Does it continue to grow? At what point do we access it, and how do we access it?
Great question. And as a record keeper, yeah, go ahead, Luther.
Sure.
Great questions.
So Mission Square has a holding account, which we call an administrative or expense account. Oh. Thanks, Committee Member Peterson. Committee Member Crutchfield, so Mission Square has an allocated holding account. The investment that's within the holding account is a stable value position, so it does grow interest. But at any point in time, if for whatever reason the funds do need access by the city, by letter of instruction or email, anything as far as reimbursements get processed through the expense account. So that holding account will continue, we continue to fund that account. Anything in excess of the revenue requirement we take on, we fund into that account. That's viewable for those that have sponsor access. You can take a look at the balances, the transaction history, but that stays and continues to grow interest in a fixed position. And then at any point in time, if the city needs to access those funds, it's accessible, and we process the funds out.
So when you say the city, do you mean HR? Do you mean the committee? What do you, I mean, I'm just wondering how.
Sure. So I'll run a hypothetical. If for whatever reason, say one of the committee members attends NAGDA, and any expenses that are being processed through for NAGDA, so whether that be for airline, hotel, whatever it may be, some cities do it differently. If you want to process that on city funds or a city card, once you save all of your receipts and you send that to us, we process the reimbursement out of the expense account to refund the city. Or if in the case you as a committee member want to charge it on your own card, we would need direction or letter instruction from the city to process a payment to a different payee other than the city. So if they send us a letter of instruction stating we would like the following excess amounts reimbursed, paid to the order to board member Crutchfield, we would pay that out of the expense account.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
Lunch and
you.
Learn is the same way. So I know Kimberly's not present here today, but even workshops or lunch and learns, when we appropriate things like workshops, anything that the city charges for educational purposes, they send us, you can either send us the invoice or save the receipts, and we reimburse the city through through the expense account.
So then it rests solely with HR and the benefits section in HR. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, normally the plan coordinator or plan administrator on the plan would send us a letter of instruction.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
And just sorry, as a consultant, with the risk of putting too fine a point on it, that's the funnel. Everything should reasonably be approved by the committee on that reasonableness. And that's where I think Chair Brown was talking about the future agenda item would be other expenses as a future agenda item to discuss and approve.
Right, right. Okay, thank you so much.
And I wanted to, because I think embedded in your question in terms of carrying over, yes, it does. It's not a use it or lose it. As long as there's money, yes, it does carry over.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Gosh, I apologize. So the question around carrying over, it does carry over until it's spent down.
Okay.
Sorry. But I do want to pull up the fee policy that you updated, because it does set parameters on reasonable expenses.
Okay.
And there is a component that you're charging 10 basis points or 0.10% to participant accounts on an annual basis. And it's growing, as I said, about $60,000 a year. That could be enough, it might not be enough, or it could be too much. And this is why having this ledger, a budget, as well as the fee policy to guide this reasonableness, because there is a portion in there that if this money gets too big, you have a couple choices. You can either return the excess to participants, you can reduce that 10 basis points to say 7.5 or whatever to match the budget. You can also do a fee holiday. You can say for the next 2 quarters, we're not going to charge anything, give the participants a break. And so really it sets up options.
So I'm new to the committee.
Yep.
So I have questions.
Yes.
And so, so all the participants pay a fee, essentially, and that money is going into this account. And based on the other questions I had, then HR will determine how those funds are spent or reimbursed to be used, or the committee?
Close. The committee, yes, the committee typically decides. I keep looking over this way. The committee is the one that approves the appropriateness of the.
Thank you so much.
Yes, so Committee Member Crutchfield, if there is, another example would be like the lunch and learns, like Luther said, which benefits my department handles. We organize everything, we circulate everything out, and then we gather all the invoices and we do send it over to Mission Square, and they do essentially refund us back for any expenses that we have had, but those programs are all geared towards benefits towards the employees throughout the city, so they're able to learn more about the programs, and then like just moving on with the example of the lunch and learns, those are specifically geared towards specific topics that the members are asking for and that the employees are asking for to get more knowledge about. Like the very first one we had a couple of months ago, it was for everybody to come in and learn about, and we sent out a list of topics, and they chose to talk about like wills and how to set up their trust funds and things like that. And there's another list of topics that have been pre-approved that we scheduled throughout the year.
The only reason why I was asking is because there may be people that
Microphone.
The only reason why I was asking because there may be people who pay into the fund who maybe never access or participate in that, so they never see the benefit of their money being that they have put into the fund. And so I'm just wondering about those folks. You know, they maybe never take advantage of the luncheons or the things that the committee put on because they don't see the benefit or they don't have the time. And so, but they have been paying into this fund, and so they will never realize the benefit of the money that they put into the fund, and that's why I was asking the question.
That is a very good question and a very real concern. And I'll do you one even better, I guess, is because it's an asset-based fee of 10 basis points, some would say that's not much, but again, 10 basis point adds up.
Right.
The other...
Especially when you've been employed with the city for 25 years.
100%. And this is what proves, I guess, is the final point, is if I have $1 million and I attend a lunch and learn and ate 3 pieces of pizza, and I'm next to somebody who has $100 and eats 3 pieces of pizza, I'm paying a lot more
exactly
of my 10 basis points on $1 million than somebody with 100 or 1,000. So yes, the concept of fairness, appropriateness, and reasonableness is a shifting target, and that's why it's ill-defined and really up to you as committees to say, this is what's appropriate or not.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But very, very good points and questions.
Through the vice chair, if I may, I know that Chair Brown had asked to bring back at a future meeting how we spend these funds is maybe just a quick review of our policies, like the high-level bullet points as part of that, and then we can possibly talk about how to make sure that we're doing additional education to our staff about what these are, because I know we all get the emails, but I know we're also swamped with emails, so sometimes those go to our we'll read later list and don't always get around to reading later, so better ways to communicate that with the general populace of our employees to make sure that they understand that they're paying into this, it is a benefit for them, and what they can get out of these
Right.
meetings.
And like you said, like, I know that you're swamped, and so you may not be able to take advantage of the lunch, or you may not have time to take advantage of the workshops, or maybe you don't even see the benefit of the workshops. And so, but if you've been employed with the city for a while, then you've been paying into this fund. Whereas someone new who rarely pays, or maybe not has paid a larger contribution, may not, they're the 3 slices of pizza, example that he gave, they're really realizing the benefit of everything, and you may not be realizing the benefit after you have paid, or just a larger portion. That's why.
Agree, and it may be something that maybe we as committee members get a little bit more involved in, making sure that our bases understand what this is. So for Camp IBW, VPOA, IFAA, know what these are, and maybe we individually take a little bit of that ownership on to make sure that our teams, whether they sit with us or we represent them as a larger union body, are sharing that information with them.
All right, I think that's a great idea, and maybe even having each bargaining unit have something specific to come to your meeting, or come to a camp meeting, or come to BPOA meeting. You know what I mean? So that everyone could really realize the benefit, as opposed to the masses, and then and not everybody be able to take advantage.
Yeah, one of the things we've talked about, like a few meetings, is redoing, or everyone going through that fiduciary training again, because I don't think we've done that since the very beginning. I might be the only committee member left that was in that initial training when we first set up this committee. So that would be really great for all of us to go through again, or for me to go through again, and everyone else to go through for a first time, that fiduciary training that kind of really explains what it is that we're responsible for, and what we're required to do as committee members.
The other aspect, and I appreciate the questions because this is good discussion. As I said, the whole concept of fairness could be elusive, but when we look at the fee structure, you as participants in the city, I talked about the investment fees. Participants never really see that unless they know to dig for the expense ratio. That is buried in the gross versus net return. The 12.5 basis points, Mission Square's 2.5 plus the 10 administrative fee, is on participant statement. With that said, I would argue 2 things. One, either people do not read their statements, or probably couldn't articulate what that, even though it's a line item, it's not an excuse. And so with that said, we have a county just north of here that wants to do a fiduciary education session on fee collections, because there are different ways to structure it. Back in the day, it was a per head fee. I think most record keepers like Mission Square would say this is like a parking garage. You pay for slots, and participants would be paying $65, let's just say, a head, and that is what is fair. But when you look at the reality, if somebody's new to the city and contributes $5 a paycheck, that $65 per head is going to get eaten up. The $5 is going to get eaten up by fees. And so we shifted to this asset-based model, almost like the investments, where the bigger your account is, the more you pay. Now, is that fair? Some would say no. And the point of my story is there's different fee structure models. I mentioned City of Elk Grove. They do a hybrid approach. There is a per head fee of $6.50 plus an asset-based fee to try and get to this concept of fairness. For them, that works. I have a county east of here that actually has caps on both minimum and maximum. So if you're a new participant, until your account balances reaches $10,000, you don't pay any administrative fee, because the goal is to get new people in. And that caps at $200,000. So if you have $201,000, you're paying the most at $200,000, because they want people to stay in the plan. And so they're protecting both aspects. This could be a conversation that you could say, that doesn't work, or it does work. And then Santa Cruz County, they have tiers. Based on your account balance, there's 4 tiers. You pay a per head fee, but the people with the lowest amounts pay the small amount. People with the highest amount pay the highest amount, but there's 4 tiers and it's an annual fee at 4 different levels. For them, that works. And so maybe back to your point of a fiduciary education session is doing maybe a 20-minute presentation on fee collection to get back to what you were saying is making sure people get the most value.
And I think, and you made another valuable statement. I think a lot of times people get their statements and they look at, this is what I got in, this is what this is what I paid, and this is how much is in my account. And they're looking at that number. But if you ask them to be able to articulate or read their statement, they couldn't tell you anything about the statement. They couldn't tell you anything about the rest of it. So maybe that might be another workshop that we could do, is like really go over what those statements look like and how they read, because a lot of times people really just don't know. They're looking at their bottom line. This is how much I paid in. This is how much I got in my account. So that would, to your point.
Right. Are beneficiaries on the statement?
Beneficiaries are not
Look,
on the
okay.
statement, but to add on to Board Member Crutchfield, something that we can do and incorporate too as well with your retirement plan specialist on a workshop is going through the disclosures, going
Yes.
through a statement,
Yes.
what that statement looks like, going through a participant annual fee disclosure, what they're
Yes.
looking at, what they're paying per 1,000 and an investment that they're investing into. That's something that definitely retirement plan specialists can go through in a seminar with
I think that would
participants,
be
yeah.
a great idea,
Absolutely.
and it might incentivize people to pay more into retirement, because they know exactly where their money's going. They know exactly what they're getting, because sometimes they don't know. They're looking at just this bottom line, and everything's getting more expensive these days. And so when I think about maybe contributing more to retirement, maybe I can't do that right now. But if I think about it, the long-term benefit may be for me to tighten my belt somewhere else and contribute more here now, as opposed to later.
I apologize, Vincent. Beneficiary's not a-
No, sometimes beneficiary designations are on the statement, so it dovetails into what you were saying. And what Luther said earlier, in a very weird way, I'm not so much concerned about the people without a beneficiary designation on file, because I think generally they assume it's their spouse, and trust law in California
Right,
says
right.
it's the people with the unupdated beneficiary designation. I hear more horror stories about divorcees or divorcees or whatever the term is, where
Right.
somebody still has their
Right.
ex-spouse from decades ago and never really updated. So anyway, but just
Okay.
talking about the statement and reading it or understanding it or both.
Right.
So I'll share a quick story to attest to what Vincent had mentioned. I had an uncle that had passed away, it's more than 10 years ago, had worked for Muni over 30 years, and still had his ex-spouse on everything, not his children. And it went through the courts. And unfortunately, the ex-spouse did get a significant amount of the money because she was the appropriated beneficiary. He never changed it. And so that's how important it is to have a beneficiary or updated beneficiary on file, is
Right.
to avoid that from happening.
Right.
So, sorry. Definitely something scary you don't want to go through. Yeah.
Okay, that concludes my report. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present today.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we just have one quick future agenda items. Our future meeting date will be October 27th, and that will fall after the NAGDA conference. So we should be getting an update for that as well. Committee members, any additional questions for our presenters? Thank you. Then this meeting is adjourned at 10:30 a.m. Thank you.